Hello, everyone. This is Doug Davis with another session here, Ask Doug. And I'm broker in charge of Crombie Realty and have a question on how do you determine the square foot of our condo or our home or our piece of land that we're thinking of selling. And this seems like a very simplistic topic, but it's actually not. And it's actually quite dangerous in terms of liability for both the seller and the real estate agent. And you're going, what? How could that possibly be? But here's how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to start with land. So let's say you have a 10,000 square foot piece of land on the ocean. And as we know, the ocean can ebb and flow, and your oceanfront parcel can either grow or get smaller. So when you say you have 10,000 square feet, how do you know that? Are you using the tax office square footage on the tax map of your property that says 10,000? Can you rely on that? Well, no, you cannot. And really the only way to determine your current square footage on an oceanfront parcel of land is by getting a shoreline survey. And that takes a lot of time, but that's how you determine that at a moment. And I believe those are only good for 6 months or 1 year. And then you have to do another one if it's needed. Like if you're going to be doing an remodel or addition to your home, you need to get a current shoreline survey. But the point being is your 10,000 square feet turned out to be 8,000 square feet. That's a 20% reduction. So if you told a buyer that they were getting 10,000 square feet and they only got 8,000 square feet, then they might come back to you and say, well, we need a reduction in our purchase price because we bought 10,000 and now you're telling us it's 8,000 and we're due a refund, or if you're still in escrow, they're going to want to renegotiate the contract, perhaps. So beware. If you're an interior parcel, your square footage is probably okay, but they do surveys and you can ask the surveyor to recalculate the square footage. Their computerization does that quite easily. Okay, so that's land. What about a home? Well, do you know how to measure the square footage of a home? You measure it from the outside. That's, don't know why, but it's measured from the outside. So that's how they do it. Okay, so, and then what constitutes your living area versus other area? So generally, at least in Honolulu or in Hawaii, we do living area versus other areas, which would be like lanais, garage, entry areas, swimming pool, rec decks, porches, balconies. Those are all other non-living areas. So if you see square footage of living area, that's generally what is roofed and is enclosed that you live in, and would not include those other square footages. Okay, so that's pretty simple. You can take a tape measure from one corner to the other corner and take your height and width, or your length and width, two sides of your home, multiply that. But your homes are usually not square or rectangle. They have all sorts of convolutions, so be careful on how you're doing that. Okay, this is really bizarre. Condos. How do you measure condos? What's the square footage? Okay, so currently it's the paint out. So you measure it right from the wall of your condo, right from the paint surface and to the other side of the other side of the room. Okay, that's not how it's always been. That's the way it is with our CPR. But back in the day, much earlier, CPR was called HPR. So condo property regime and horizontal property regime. The horizontal property regime measured your square footage from inside the middle of the wall. So the concrete to your inner paint surface paint. So that midway point, which I don't know how you would ever know that, but I suppose the architect would know that when they created the condo. So that makes a difference. If you are selling an old condo, it was probably measured from the inside of the wall, halfway through. And that square footage persists, but that's not the measurement that would be done today. And if you're doing it yourself, I'd advise you not to do it yourself. But if you were to measure it, you're really only going to be able to do it from the paint out. And remember, there's all sorts of nooks and crannies and corners when doing square footage. So you have to be very certain of your drawing if you're going to try to calculate square footage. So generally, the brokerage community here uses what is recorded and is repeated by the city and county for tax purposes. But that doesn't mean that's what you get. You know, there's a Matterport camera that measures the square footage. It calculates that because they put that camera through 50 points throughout your condo, and it can calculate the square footage of everything. And I would put more reliance on that because that's taking so many triangulations and readings that it's probably very accurate. I would think so. Better than an appraiser doing their little light beams, those little red light beams, and taking the square footage and kind of averaging it out, not being very exact. And inches matter over an entire condo, so it can change your square footage quite dramatically. So caveats here: don't measure it yourself, but do quote where you got your square footage. Buyer beware mostly, but seller beware, because, well, in the example of land, it can change. And condo quotation might be the old way versus the new way. And something a little bit more abstract, but additions that were not permitted may not be used in appraisals. So that extra square footage would be left off. So if you put another bedroom on your home and that wasn't in the square footage known by the city for the tax purpose, then the appraiser wouldn't be able to use it. And if it burns down, the insurance company may not include it because it wasn't a permitted addition. So beware on that too. And that would be for like enclosing your lanai. There are issues with doing that. Enclosing your lanai may put the entire complex over the floor area ratio that's allowed by the city. That's a whole nother thing. So you should get your lanai enclosure approved by DPP, Department of Planning and Permitting, and your homeowner association to do it properly, to make sure that you're even allowed to enclose it. Because the city may say, no, you've reached the floor area limit and we no longer can allow any lanais to be enclosed ever again. So that can happen. So who would have known? All that just for square footage? That's crazy. But those are some of the issues, and I hope that might help you in the future. All right, that's it. Hope you all have a great day, and keep the questions coming.